Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, because we're having us a barbecue. 14 white men were charged in connection with a cocaine trafficking ring that was connected to Penn State University fraternities. Say no to drugs, kids. Say no to drugs.
In all, cops in Pennsylvania arresting 14 people, including one student's father.
One of the alleged ringleaders, 24-year-old Agostino Abatiello, is from Westbury. They say he and a second frat brother made regular trips between New York and Pennsylvania supplying cocaine, while others at frat houses cut and packaged the drugs.
Long Island reporter Stacey Sager live in Westbury with what we know about this operation. Stacey?
Well, Mike, this is a story that really resonates, especially as many kids are heading off to college this week. This was a massive investigation at Penn State. Among those charged, 2 Long Islanders, including the alleged ringleader, who grew up right here in Westbury.
He lived in a beautiful home here on a well-manicured street in Westbury, but 24-year-old Agostino Abatiello, a Penn State grad, will now spend his time behind bars. According to a criminal complaint, Abatiello was known to be the largest distributor in a cocaine ring at Penn State.
Abatiello was at the very top of the chain.
Prosecutors say his former fraternity, Sigma Chi, along with Delta Upsilon, had parties infused with drugs and alleged hazing involving those drugs.
Cutting and bagging cocaine was, for some pledges, an indoctrination into the Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi fraternities.
In a statement, the university saying, quote, "We are horrified by these serious allegations," adding, "Criminal activity, including hazing such as this, has no place at our institution." Still, the investigation alleges a massive amount of dealing here in 2023 and 24, yielding 14 indicted on Monday, even one student's parent, an attorney, Paul Robinson,
who we allege took steps to conceal evidence, including a safe containing drugs and cash.
Meanwhile, a second Long Islander arrested in the investigation, Robert Zanola, also 24. He allegedly helped move the cocaine from New York City. He grew up here on Abbey Road in Manhasset.
We're here about Robert.
Yeah, I'm not talking.
Just because you're at college and you're making money and you think that this is something you can get away with, it's not.
Prosecutors hoping the ongoing investigation is a warning to other young adults heading off to colleges around the country this week. Neighbors of those charged agree it is a wake-up call.
If you're not in a good place, just call your parents. Call someone that you love, that you know that will help you. And that's really what it's about. It's unfortunate. And I hope these boys are okay and their future's okay.
And Agostino Abatiello surrendered today after failing to appear on his charges yesterday, and so he was jailed without bail today. Once again, this was a massive investigation. Residents on this block tell us that up until now, Abatiello had a good job post-college. He was working as an accountant. We're live in Westbury. I'm Stacey Sager, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
I wonder if they're going to give them harsh sentences that black people got during the war on drugs, or do they have the complexion for protection? Now, according to reports, investigators claim that senior fraternity members Agostino Abatiello and Thomas Robinson were a leader of an operation that trafficked cocaine at Penn State University on campus. And as they were trafficking these drugs, it is alleged that they had pledges cut and packaged the drugs at the Delta Epsilon and Sigma Chi fraternity houses as part of their initiation into the fraternity. Now, the Attorney General says that this was a highly profitable drug trafficking crew revolving around Agostino Abatiello and Thomas Robinson, and that this highly profitable drug trafficking crew that revolved around Penn State University basically was going out here moving a lot of weight around these members of the fraternity and having pledges initiated into the fraternity where they would cut and package the cocaine for sale on campus. And what further makes this story even more disturbing is that the father of one of the two boys who are basically charged with selling these drugs on campus, Paul Robinson, has been charged with tampering with evidence and hindering the investigation. They got caught moving that weight. Now, the police in Pennsylvania are seeing this drug bust as an isolated incident. However, when I take a critical examination of the alleged actions of these 14 individuals who are charged in this whole drug trafficking operation, it definitely fits the pattern and profile of beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and also fits the pattern and profile of children of the corn that I talk about in depth in my other book, The Woman Crisis. And when it comes down to all 14 of these individuals, they were out here looking to move all of this weight, selling cocaine on campus due to an addiction that they had. And the addiction that they had wasn't to the drugs, and even, I would say, not even an addiction to the money like many of the guys in the hood had during the days of the crack epidemic. No, what these guys were addicted to was the power that they had from going out here and being able to go out and participate in selling these illegal drugs on campus. And it was that addiction to power that was the thing that basically drove all of these white males who came from very affluent homes and had very good jobs, because one of the leaders of the operation had possibly a six-figure job as an accountant coming right out of college. And these other kids who were in this fraternity, they were basically on a fast track to getting jobs that were paying similar high wages. So they were out here not selling drugs because of the money, but they were selling drugs because of the quest for power that they had as related to being able to have control over this operation and have control over who came into the operation. This was all about them in their quest for power, and I have to wonder what would happen in the case of these white males now that they have been caught. Because as someone who grew up during the crack epidemic, I basically saw the media go out here and demonize black men and black women who were out here selling all of the crack that basically came from white communities like this. Because in order for these drugs to be trafficked into the inner cities, like my South Bronx neighborhood where I live, in order for that to be done, you needed people who had the infrastructure to bring those drugs into the community. And usually when it came down to those people, who are mostly white, they basically just went out here and made sure that black people were the face of the whole drug operation, when it was them who were out here doing the actual distribution that brought the drugs into the country. And after they brought the drugs into the country, basically to try to destroy black communities, because they saw foundational black Americans starting to gain momentum in this country, going out here and getting jobs after the civil rights movement, and many black people going on to get good educations. What the white supremacists wanted to do was go out here and bring drugs into the black community. And as they brought drugs into the black community, sadly, a lot of minds wound up getting poisoned, thinking that these drugs were social currency. And as they thought that these drugs were social currency, sadly, what happened was many of our black males who never really had that opportunity to go out here and get one of those jobs, even though we had affirmative action out here. Again, the affirmative action programs were all about white women and making sure that the white woman had a job. But when the black males, again, never had that opportunity, they got out here and started selling these drugs and moving that weight and falling into a trap where the government wanted to make them the face of the crime of drug dealing and make them the crime as related to George H.W. Bush's war on drugs, which he waged on black communities in the 1980s, which really was not a war on drugs, but was a war on black people, a war on black people where they created propaganda to make black people the face of this whole drug game as related to crack cocaine. And you had also people, again, enabling this, like Joe Biden with his whole law that he created, talking about how he wanted harsher sentences for rock crack cocaine than powder cocaine. And he also continued to push this with the 1994 crime bill. And this created a ghetto to prison pipeline that basically destroyed the lives of many foundational black Americans. And this was also reinforced by the three strikes law as related to later on in the 90s. Again, all of this was designed to destroy the lives of black people in mass incarceration. And as this was going on, many of these same white individuals, they were out here selling these drugs on college campuses like these 14 individuals were, but they were not going out here and being presented as people who were destroying the community. Nope, they weren't being presented as people destroying the community, even though they were out here consuming these drugs. And things got so bad towards the late 1980s with the crack epidemic that basically in their whole plan to destroy black people with this crack cocaine and the turf wars and the many of these people getting caught up in their addiction to money, what happened was that they found out eventually by 1990 or so that it was mostly white people who were the ones on crack cocaine. And as they found out white people were the ones who were mainly on crack cocaine, that's where we started to see this whole rollback as related to the war on drugs, because the war on drugs basically just failed as a campaign against black people because too many white people were getting caught up in these drugs. And as these white people were getting caught up in these drugs, that's where we saw how they were trying to pull back on this war on drugs, but continued on with their war on black people. And I have to wonder, will any of these white males be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law as related to their drug trafficking the way many black men were and black women were during the 1980s? And when I look at all those black people who wound up with getting these harsh sentences as related to the Rockefeller drug laws here in New York and the whole drug laws as related to Washington and the federal government, I mean, they were basically, back in the days of the crack epidemic, basically going out here and giving black people sentences of 20 years and even life in prison for trafficking drugs that were basically brought over here by white people, and people who got caught up in the middle, like the girls would go out here with these pookie types, or a guy just catching a ride from a dude in a car just trying to get from A to B. What happened with those people is that their whole lives were completely derailed, and that they wound up getting 10 years or 20 years just for going out and being in a date with one of these guys or being in the car with one of these guys. That's how harsh these drug laws were. And again, these drug laws were not harsh to go out here and stop the trafficking of drugs. It was going out here and looking to destroy the lives of black people. And I have to wonder, will these federal prosecutors go out here and look to prosecute these white males to the fullest extent of the law? And the answer to that is very simple: no, because when you have the complexion for the protection in the system of white supremacy, they're looking to give you a pass. And basically with all of these white guys, they've been caught, but they possibly going to be put through this criminal justice system where they have racial immunity from under the law. And as they have that racial immunity from under law, they're possibly going to go out here and get themselves a nice pass as related to the criminal operation they were in as related to selling these drugs. They possibly going to wind up getting a plea deal or some sort of deal, because that's what they do when it's white people selling the drugs. And when it's white people selling the drugs, we see a completely different tone as related to the entire story of these guys. Again, these guys went out here, as they were out here drug trafficking, presented again in a way that tried to make them look like, oh, he came from a good family, oh, he comes from a nice community, and make it look like he's some sort of good guy, when in actuality, you're the one out here doing all these dirt in these streets, doing all this dirt in these streets as related to destroying their community. Again, when it was black guys out here, you made it look like they were the face of crime and the bad guy. When it's the white guy, you don't do that at all. And when it's a group of white men who come from top universities doing this stuff, they go out here and look to try to clean these guys up and make it look like they were no sort of threat to the community at all. No, they don't sit there and talk about how these guys are destroying the community. No, and what they were doing was even worse, because, again, they were going out here initiating the young pledges into the fraternity by having them go out here and cut the drugs. No different than what was going on in black neighborhoods when these dope dealers would go out here and recruit teenage boys who were just going to high school. And as those teenage boys would go to high school, they would have them selling the crack rocks on the street and have them going out here buying, these guys getting this money, going out here buying Jordans and buying BMWs. Again, when it's black guys going out here doing this, oh, they are the most evil people. But when it's white guys going out here and selling drugs on college campuses and got themselves the BMWs and got the girls basically chasing them, oh, that's perfectly fine when it's the white guy. But when it's the black guy, we need to have a war on drugs. We need to have these guys locked up for life, because what they're doing is destroying the community. But when we look at the white community, they don't see it as their community being destroyed, which just shows how full of shit many of those racists were in the 1980s. Oh, when it's the white kids, they're not destroying the community. They're not destroying the lives of other people when they go out here and take their drugs. And it's just a part of life that they're willing to just go out here and quietly accept and quietly bury between the lines of things, that it's perfectly fine for the white people to go out here and get these drugs, and it's perfectly fine. No, they don't want to go out here and put these white guys in jail for the rest of their life and have them in the penitentiary under the authority of the COs, or have to deal with the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and be having their front sides and back sides traded for commissary, such as Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Keith coffee, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, beef jerky with cheddar cheese, beef jerky with mozzarella cheese, beef jerky with Monterey Jack cheese, Hunt's snack pack puddings, the whole shebang chips, Fritos chips, hot flamin' Cheetos, packages of soy sauce, packages of sriracha sauce, packages of honey mustard, bottles of mayonnaise, bottles of honey mustard, pork cracklings with hot sauce, packages of refried beans, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, bear claws, pound cake. I mean, the white guys never have to go through the ordeal of having them to get their front sides and back sides turned out and have their face glazed by Mr. Sprinkles, looking like he ate some fried chicken, or have his backside basically just filled with all of that special sauce. And as Mr. Sprinkles calls all the guys from Cell Block D to check out that dude's backside as he splits the cheeks open and shows dude's backside looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake. Nope. When it comes to the white guys, they don't want them to go through that ordeal as related to having to spend their life in prison. No, they consider their life to have a higher value as related to their system of white supremacy. And when it comes down to the white guys, again, they go out here and they're the ones who are the number one consumers of these drugs. They're the number one consumers of these drugs, but they want to go out here and make the black man the face of this whole thing as related to the consumption of drugs and the person who goes out here and uses the drugs and the one who traffics the drugs. But if it wasn't for the demand from white people, they wouldn't be bringing any of these drugs into the country. Nope, wouldn't bring a single a single gram of those drugs into the country. But when it comes down to the white guys, again, they were the ones who consumed the drugs. They were the ones who basically was the ones coming down to neighborhoods like mine and coming down here from their professional jobs like these frat boys basically had. They would come down to the inner city to go buy their drugs, then come back to their neighborhoods, go out here and snort their drugs, go to their jobs. Meanwhile, as they were going out here getting their drugs from the black neighborhood, these same white supremacists did everything in their power to oppress black people like myself and keep us from being able to get one of those good jobs. Again, that just shows you how insidious the system of white supremacy is. Again, you will deny the black man the job as related to being able to work to take care of himself, but as you have these jobs, you will go out here and you will bring drugs into my neighborhood, then tell me this is the only opportunity we have. And then as black people who are not very smart, go out here and look to sell those drugs, then use that as a reason to go out here and put black people in prison when it's you who go out here and take all the drugs. It's you who take all the drugs. It's you who bring all the drugs into the community. And with us going through this economic crisis that didn't even affect these white people, again, they're out here selling their own drugs, and again, selling their own drugs because it's all about them having power as related to being the big men on campus. It was all about them being the big men on campus and basically running the campus. That's why these frat boys were out here selling these drugs, because again, it wasn't about the money at the end of the day, because these guys came from good families. They basically possibly had fathers who made six figures. I mean, one of the fathers who was in the operation was a lawyer. Again, man making good money, people living in nice houses. And the reason they did this, again, was because they wanted that rush of power from being able to say, hey, we control something. We have power over people as related to these drugs. And it just shows how evil and reprehensible these guys were as related to the top of this operation, because again, they wanted to see people destroyed. They didn't care about anyone. No, all it was about them having that rush of power as related to them living in the secret world, where they basically were able to say, hey, we could be the man on top of everything as related to the institution of white supremacy. And the saddest part is that same institution of white supremacy would give these white males a slap on the wrist as related to the heinous crime that they committed, but look to say, oh, that the black man is some sort of monster and some sort of criminal. Want to say that the black man during the 1980s was the one destroying the community, say he was the predator, and present him as the face of crime, when in actuality, the real face of crime as related to the whole war on drugs, which was a war on black people, were guys like this. These were the real monsters who destroyed the black community with the Civil War that basically put black brother against black brother and black sister against black sister as we fought for turf that was never ours and led to the deaths of many people, either with drug overdoses or drive-by shootings. I mean, these drugs that these white people brought into this country destroyed many black lives during the crack epidemic, and these people like this, basically, they were the main consumers of these drugs. And again, as they waged war on the black community, they now are, because we are in this economic crisis and this whole thing, and not even the economic crisis, because again, this just shows how it was all about them having power, all about them having control, and they would look to, again, just go out here and sell these drugs, and that just shows how just depraved they are. Just shows how depraved they are. Again, to just go out here and look to sell these drugs on campus, because for these white folks, again, they love participating in their vices, and as they love participating in their vices, they go out here and look to go out here and make black people the face of everything as related to their deviancy. But this whole case just shows who the real deviants are, and who the real consumers of drugs are, and the people who bring the drugs into the community, and just shows us what they would do if there were no black people around at all. Now, if you want to learn more about how guys like this become children of the corn, you can pick up my books, The Man and the Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man and the Woman Crisis at other online bookstores like Barnes & Noble, Draft the Digital, Google Play, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me take these white guys like this to the barbecue, these children of the corn, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Runway of Doom. The goddess next door struts her stuff on the catwalk to take on a runway of rogues in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Runway of Doom at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Esteem a New Woman. The devilish diva starts on the road to becoming a new creature in Christ in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem a New Woman at Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse. The man who rules the world gets a job offer he can't refuse in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.